Welcome to the Construction Brothers Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Campbell, and with me, like he is every week, my brother, Eddie Campbell.
What's up, Tyler?
Not much, Eddie. This week, one massive inefficiency. Eddie, I felt like we had a good thing rolling in just a few minutes ago.
We really did.
And guys, tragedy struck. Just utter tragedy. The entire episode just wiped itself.
35 minutes in.
35 minutes in.
We're almost there.
So if you sense a little bit of defeat in our voices, that's why.
There's a little defeat.
There's a little defeat. Do you ever have that happen? Something just removes itself from your life. It's really sad. It's just really sad.
It is sad, especially when you know it's gone. Where do things go when they disappear in
Off
the internet?
Riverside FM.
You know that this information lives somewhere. You're like, no, the computer could probably give it to me again.
Probably. Mm-hmm.
If I was smart enough to go find it.
Maybe we just ask Uncle John.
Probably could get it there.
He'd know.
Yeah.
He'd know. It's probably in some server somewhere, out in Zimbabwe. I don't know.
Who
anyway,
knows?
Off the coast of Scotland, maybe.
Gone to us.
Who cares? Who needs it? Whatever. We can do this again. No problem. Eddie, what are we talking about today, man?
You know what's really tough?
What?
Scheduling people to the right level. Like, not too much.
Not too little.
Not too little, but just right.
Mm-hmm.
It is very difficult.
It is. I feel like everybody needs a certain amount of time too. Like people are dynamic, so it's hard to read, and we're also pretty bad at scheduling, just in general. People are like really bad at judging the amount of time things will take. We talked about that with Micah Pipo a couple weeks ago, right?
Sure.
I think we had mentioned Andy, our middle brother, know, and him building a thing in their bus.
The add to rule.
And so he said, it'll take me like 45 minutes. How long did it end up taking? About 3 hours.
Yeah.
So, and I was there, and I watched the whole thing.
It's a problem. I mean, and for one that is a little bit of a sandbagger, there's another that is an overachiever. And neither are all that great in construction because what do I need? I need to know how long, and I need to know when that next domino can be set up to fall.
Right.
Because everything works together, so I need to have realistic goals about how I work. This also works internally, like when you run your team.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to run your team and figure out how much do I give somebody without burning them out, making their life miserable, making them want to quit, go find a new job, whatever. But then at the same time, how much can I give them without it being like, they don't have enough to do.
Yeah.
They're checking Instagram every 30 minutes.
It's that constant balance, right? It's like, okay, I have this person and I want to use them to their fullest potential. And I want them to give me the best output that they can, but I don't want to make them unhealthy. Yeah. I want to make sure that they're, healthy and happy, so I don't want to give them too little, but I also don't want to give them too much. And then it's this balance act of when do I need to hire another person? Yep. Right? When does another person come in to help pick up some slack? And then that person, we got to make sure that we balance their plate too. It's a lot of spinning plates, exactly like that. It's a lot to keep up with.
So you came across Parkinson's law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was reading a book. It's called The Power of Stupid Ideas, I think. Pretty good. I'm about a little over 3/4 of the way through it. But he had mentioned Parkinson's law, and I probably butchered the title of that book, by the way, guys. So we'll just put it in the show notes. But he had mentioned Parkinson's law. Yeah. And Parkinson's law, just kind of a quick little overview of it, is that a task expands to fill the time given.
Right.
All right. So I give you until Friday to do a thing, and you only have that one thing. What are you going to do? You're probably going to do that one thing or a bunch of other things all week. So that's Parkinson's law. There's bloat in that. It's not realistic. And the thing that you gave me could have taken 20 minutes, but it took me until Friday. Yeah. So there's no pressure on me at all. Now, I'll counteract that and say, you have 1 minute to get it to me. You're going to be stressed to the max. Yeah. Right? So, it works both ways. But specifically, Parkinson's law is talking about that bloat that extra time that you don't really quite need.
Yeah. Okay. So I've borne witness to this going all the way back to baseball days. We used to just call it fake hustle because it was that like for the person that like you couldn't get them motivated. There was always somebody like that. They had some talent, but you couldn't get them motivated.
Right.
And no matter what you gave them to do, it was just kind of like minimal effort. But a lot of times they learned how to kind of just make it look like there was some effort going on.
Like they're hustling.
Yeah.
They know how to just get enough of a sweat on.
Well, just like the your arm movements or whatever. Like, I'm running sprints. Oh, I'm working hard. Look like you're huffy puffy and I couldn't do anymore. Yeah. When you're really running at like 50%. So this is a fake hustle. Not putting in the real effort that you could put in. It also like reminds me of some of the people that are pushing for maybe a shorter work week with block time schedules where you've got like a massively productive hour block.
Yeah.
Where you're like head down, nothing bothers me. I'm doing this thing, and you're looking for hyper productivity in that 1 hour block. It's interesting how that hyper productivity, like we have such a difficult time scaling that hyper productivity.
Right.
But it seems like that would be admitting the fact that there are different levels of productivity, and I might be able to take what I'm doing, mash it down, and work less.
Right. Well, and that's happening a lot. Even overseas, there's some companies that are just doing the 4-day work week.
Right.
Right. Like that's been more of a thing. And I think that's honestly to counteract Parkinson's law.
Yeah.
It's to say, no, everything that we get done could be gotten done in 4 days. The problem is when you do that long enough, Parkinson's law comes back.
Yeah. The work from home thing strikes me too.
Again, yes.
Where now we're seeing research that even though initially there was a bump in productivity, that over the long term, the productivity kind of left. I wonder if the 4-day work week will be that way too.
It's an interesting thing.
It's like because we condition ourselves to do a certain task for a certain amount of time. And if you haven't conditioned yourself to focus for a 6-hour period, it's going to take a minute to get there. When you first start your career, it's incredibly difficult to keep up with the guys that have been pacing for a long time. Like I remember my attention span just being like
dismal.
I just 8 hours just seemed like forever.
Yeah.
It seemed like forever. And the thought of being in a job where it was like, I'm going to work late, voluntarily work late because I got to get something done, just was foreign.
Yeah.
But, you get 5 years in and all of a sudden you're voluntarily working late because you've got a deadline and you've got to get it done. So
today we're going to dig a little bit more into Parkinson's law.
Right.
So that's kind of like the high level conversation, high level things but let's dive into where it came from, the origins of it, who invented it, who came up with the law, and let's get into some of those details. So we had, hey, shout out to Lee for helping us dig all this information up and put all that stuff out. Lee Dalma, everybody. Give him a round of applause.
Researcher extraordinaire. And what Lee told us was that this is named for a British naval historian and author by the name of Cyril Northcote Parkinson.
Let's stop for a second and talk about how awesome it would be to have a middle name like Northcote.
What about being named Cyril? You should be
Cyril.
On the Maisie cartoons.
He sounds so much like a sailor. It's ridiculous.
Shout out to you people with kids.
He's got like a pipe and like a mustache.
All right, focus, son.
Sorry.
All right, 1955 is when he wrote an essay for The Economist. It is a commonplace observation that work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. In other words, if you give somebody a week to do something, it'll take a week. If you give them a day, it'll take a day, if it's possible.
Yeah.
And I love Lee's kind of tongue in cheek. So it's kind of makes you want to just make an observation and name it after yourself, doesn't it? You would have this whole law.
Yeah.
So, which is awesome.
Tyler's Law.
But this gets kind of expanded over into bureaucratic bloat, but then the scheduling bloat side of things, and it's pretty cool.
I have Tyler's Law. Tyler's Law is don't eat hot wings ever, because you will pay for it
the next day. You have intimate experience with this recently. So very interesting that how this plays out in like goal setting, deadlines, bureaucratic bloat, schedule delays, whatnot.
He went into the bureaucratic bloat in that specific white paper too, which was fascinating.
Which is
me.
very, very interesting.
And if you're in a bigger organization, this is 110% applicable to you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's look at
let's dig
kind
into
of the
that.
basic. There's almost like a basic formula for this, and let's take a man. We'll call him Fred, and Fred is a middle-aged man, probably balding.
Hi, I'm Fred.
Mildly portly.
Nice to meet you.
He is over it. He doesn't really want to do his job all that much anymore. He doesn't also want to necessarily lose his job because he's reliant on his job. So Fred has a predicament. So Fred is thinking about it, and he's like, what are my options? Well, his options are he could resign, he could ask for help, or he'd come up with this brilliant idea. I need to hire people to do what I do because what I do is so hard, I can no longer do it anymore. So basically the premise is that nowhere in the history of bureaucracy has anybody wanted to like raise their hand and say, the workload that I've had for 10 years, I just can't do that anymore. I can't. You're going to have to give me a helper. There's a problem with asking for helpers because if that helper comes in and is overzealous, they show you up. Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden they're like, or maybe they might not only do like what you were doing, they might do more than what you were doing. And then you look like really bad because you look like you were incompetent even when you're trying.
Yeah.
So not going to do that. No way.
That's a bad idea.
Can't resign because I got a great pension. And so I love how tongue in cheek this whole thing is. So what does the bureaucrat do? He hires Tammy and Ned to be under him. And Fred postures himself as the only person on the planet that would have the managerial astuteness to be able to know what the heck Tammy and Ned do. I mean, I've been doing this 10 years to learn this. Mm-hmm. And somebody who really knows is going to have to manage this process, and I am the only person. And then it ensues that Tammy at some point will also become middle-aged, and so will Ned, and they'll get over the whole thing too, and they'll have a brilliant idea.
So basically what we're talking about is a multi-level marketing scheme here.
It
right?
is like
this is an MLM.
It's the reason why you ask, why does it take that many people in a government to do that? It's like it's the picture of the roadside work with 20 people there, 18 are holding a shovel up, one is in the hole digging, and then one has a clipboard. You know, like that kind of thing. And you're going, how did we get here?
That's how.
I say that's how. This is a suggestion on how. Right? This is an observation. Again, Mr. Parkinson, Mr. Cyril Northcutt Parkinson,
the third,
the not pirate, is he's merely suggesting.
Do you think he had a parrot too?
That this is his observation. And then he gets a whole law named after him, which I don't know how.
But he named it after himself. No, he named it.
You know what's funny is he didn't name it like the Parkinson theory. He named it the Parkinson law, which means like this is a veritable fact. Like gravity, man. This is how bureaucracy works. So, interesting.
It's the Sir Isaac Newton of productivity.
Yeah, interesting concept. But I mean, when you step back and look at it, when you step back and think about it, you go, okay. I mean, it makes some sense. Like there's something kind of to the fact that people over time can lose heart for what they do, and that we do promote kind of a level up for ourselves. And that would be very convenient in promoting a level up for yourself. Because if I can nestle two people under me, and it takes two people to do what I used to do, why? I was a real rock star.
They will know how valuable I am.
I am the guru. Right. And then as things grow beneath me, well, I mean, I moved up.
Yeah.
I obviously I need more retirement. Obviously I need more benefit. Obviously I need more salary.
He mentioned too in that study, I don't know if you have it in front of you, but there was basically the number of, is it lieutenants? Am I completely off on that? Basically, it was talking about the number of higher ups in the military that he saw.
Yeah.
Versus like in wartime versus not in wartime.
Yeah.
And there were more, I'm not sure what the rank is, but yeah.
Yeah, Admiralty statistics in 1914 and in 1928. So basically there's a fall in numbers between 1914 and 1928 in like the actual ships in commission. So like let's look at it. Capital ships in commission during like at 1914, 62 ships. 1928, 20 ships. Officers, 146,000 in 1914. Officers and men, this is the Royal Navy at the time, went down to 100,000 in 1928. So you see a decrease in ships, a decrease in officers. But then there's additional dockyard workers, 9.5% more. There's 40.2% more officials and clerks at the dock work. And there are 78.45% more Admiralty officials. In other words, like you've taken all of the people from 1914, they just kind of capitulated up in the ranks, but you've got less ships, like to the tune of 62 versus 20.
More than half.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're finding work.
Yeah.
Right.
That statistic blew my stinking mind.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah. The layers that we will go to make sure that we get a promotion, right? Like that's a big part of this.
Yeah, there's a promotion, you know, you're keeping your job, all that, but
so
it's
we all want the level up, right?
Sure.
We all want the accolade. We all want that thing. So I mean, I feel like that's only kind of human.
Yeah.
in some way.
That's more in like the occupation of roles, right? But in that, like the subtle undertone of the whole thing is how long does it take to do the thing you do? Or is the thing that you do a necessary thing to do?
Yeah.
And enter, you know, kind of the discussion around construction. We many times will see like a deadline set and we take all the way to that deadline. You know, like a task given will take the amount of time that the task is given to take.
Yeah.
And like it'll expand to fit that. And internally, like when you are managing a team of people, you probably feel this pretty acutely. Like you're trying to figure out what everybody can do. And like you probably know when you have them at max task because people start flagging. People start like, maybe it's irritability. It's like you see they're there early and late. Maybe you see that, you know, they've been, you know, getting recruiter calls and diving outside about, you know, twice a day, whatever it is. But you're like, oh man, okay, we're getting close. Like we're kind of on the edge of losing somebody here. We've got them overtasked. And then like somewhere in there lies a sweet spot where they're a really good capacity. Like they're getting a lot done. They're very busy. But at the same time, they're not so busy that they can't breathe. They're just like they're at max. Yeah. But then somewhere under that is like this whole spectrum and range of inefficiency and non-productivity. And what we're saying here is that when that happens, the person's not sitting at their desk saying, well, I have nothing to do. Well, I have nothing to do. Can I help you? I have nothing to do. Could I help you? They don't walk around the room and say, can I have more tasks, please? They don't raise their hand and say, you know, I really haven't been working to my full potential for you. Could you please task me up? They're not doing that.
Give me a deadline,
No,
please.
what they'll do is they'll say, you know, I've been here a while. And I'm probably less busy just because I've learned how to work really well. Like I'm probably just better at what I do.
Yeah.
And you know, not going to go and ask anybody for extra. I'm just going to get my stuff done. Mm-hmm. And I will expand whatever my stuff is to match the time I've been given.
The expectation.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's the old Office Space thing in a way. Like I get here and I just kind of veg out for the first 15, 20 minutes. I just sit.
Yeah. It's so perfect. Yes.
There you go.
Well, I mean, saw this every day in detailing, right? I see it even every day now. Like when somebody gives you a deadline that's on Friday and you really don't have that much to do on it, it kind of just gets deprioritized if the deadline's not too soon. So you don't really put head down and get through it. You'll just chill. You'll just chill on it. You'll go work on other stuff that might be more urgent. So in contrast that with somebody giving you a deadline of, hey, I need it in 2 minutes. Yeah, you're right. Stressed out, right? But also, I don't want us to get away from this idea of like, hey, listen, deadlines are super critical for everything that we do. And I think when we first start, and I know this was especially true for me, when I first started in detailing, when I first started working, I was very frustrated with deadlines, because honestly, it would kind of stress me out. I'd be like, oh gosh, I don't know quite what to do. And so, it would really stress me out. Now I got better at it, but eventually I started to learn like, no, deadlines are a good thing. Deadlines apply pressure for me to get my stuff done, right? And there's that balancing act, I feel like, with deadlines where you got to try to find it, especially when you're assigning yourself.
Yeah.
You got to try to find a place where it's not going to be like screwing you over
yeah.
or also just making you rest on your laurels.
Yeah, it's funny how those deadlines that you stay late to hit, like you'd stay late. And I remember staying late a good bit. And I remember staying till, 12, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., meeting a deadline, right? And it's funny, when you do the math on that, I was pretty close on my estimate of what it would take.
Pretty close.
If I could meet it within that day by just staying till even 3 a.m., like I overestimated what I could do by maybe a day or two, maybe.
Yeah.
Right? But you got to wonder, like, what was the lead up to that? Like, and you just like things reached this like fever pitch and like, oh, I'm going to get it done. There were so many deadlines met like late on the day. There were very few deadlines that were met early on the day. Very few. But a lot of that I feel like could be blamed on the prioritization of what we were doing.
And pacing
and different things like that.
Yeah.
We said like, okay, so we've clickbaited you in here with the massive inefficiency. And like, okay, what are the massive inefficiencies? So we
answer
deliver.
the question.
Yeah, so we can deliver on this. The massive inefficiency of poorly set deadlines. The massive inefficiencies of a heavy top end in a company or construction planning process where people think a whole lot more of themselves, their role, and their brains than they ought to. Happens.
To the best of us.
It happens.
To the best of us.
The massive inefficiency that's brought by allowing a task to kind of expand to fill the time given, right? Which is an offshoot of the whole deadline thing.
Yeah.
So that's those are the massive inefficiencies that we're talking about. The belief is here, and this is the bros theorizing a bit again. So we like these because we put them out, and you guys you feed back to us.
Yeah.
Right. We're here. We're not just here to jaw. We're here to we're starting this discussion. Like we're trying to create a conversation, a community, a group that is talking.
How do we plan better?
How do we do that? Yeah, where do you see it, and then what do you do about it?
How do we set deadlines
for the group?
Yeah.
How do we learn? So yeah, how do you manage deadlines, or how do you manage people, or how do you manage your organization such that that thing doesn't grow to just match what it has? That organizational structure is just growing to match what it's
just contain. Not growing to grow. I feel like a lot of times bigger companies kind of get in that set. They kind of get in that cycle where they're just kind of onboarding a bunch of people, and that bureaucracy kind of starts coming in. Right?
Yeah,
like it's
trying to find that happy medium of enough management.
right.
Yeah, and
Not
then
too much.
the whole middle manager thing comes
Yeah.
into play at some point, which is kind of that like awkward teenage area you get in when you're trying to get out of the 10 to 15 and try to turn into a company of maybe like 40, right? There are tiers in this where you're tipping over, and it's like I've gone from being able to be the single source of management as the owner of the business to needing to have other people see to things and have responsibilities and needing to put things into, areas of expertise or areas of responsibility. So the thing is that once that begins to happen, one thing I have seen is that one person managing 4 detailers in our company is insanely efficient and arguably just as productive as a few people trying to manage 13.
Yeah.
With the training, the different things going on.
Yeah.
Just things to think on, right? So I'm calling on all people to just think through this whole, like, hey, deadlines are a good thing if set well. They drive you to a conclusion, hopefully applying enough pressure, not too much. I'm looking for suggestions on how do you set good deadlines. And just saying, hey, this is there. This is tough. But if you set fluffy deadlines for yourself, don't think you're doing yourself a favor on your bottom line, because you're not.
Yeah. I think also it's worth saying, like, I'm not looking for the simple answer of, oh, well, AI is going to take care of it. Maybe eventually it will. Like, let's live right here, right now. Most of us don't have that stuff implemented yet. How do you determine these things, right? Maybe one day AI will be able to help us a little bit, but I tend to think it's going to struggle with some of the human factors that come into it, like family member having to go to the hospital, or like all of these other little nuancy things that can come into a schedule, and you have good intentions, but something comes up, right? I'm not looking for the AI answer. I'm looking for that, what are you doing right now? Answer. All right. I feel like that's going to be most valuable for everybody to talk about. And maybe eventually we can get into the AI stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And we love that.
Sure.
That's great. That's great. But I feel like most people right now just need to have that conversation.
Right. Yeah. Use your tools well, but a lot of what we talk about, it just goes back to the people in construction. Management of people, motivation of people, treatment of people. Like, it is the people of construction that are getting it done. So how, as a person, as a leader, are you helping the industry get better? And in this way, like, how do you properly motivate a group of people to get the amount of work done that is appropriate for them to get done? So, hey, this is out for suggestion, and hopefully something to chew on, food for thought. Like, we want you to step back and think a little bit, like, yeah, that might be going on. Maybe I can tweak something here a little bit, and I can get a little more out of this team if I just kind of ask some honest questions.
Yeah. Well, guys, kind of some housekeeping here. All right. So if you want to, submit your answer, if you want to just throw some stuff over, maybe we can bring this back around, bring it up on a 5-Minute Friday.
Yeah.
Give us that feedback. All right. Like, shoot us an email, contact@brospodcast.com. That'd be the best way to reach out to us. Either that, or you could DM Eddie and I, shoot us a message on LinkedIn. We're pretty active over there too.
Perfect.
Or even on Instagram. If you're over there, just hop on Construction Bros or on Eddie Campbell, Tyler Campbell, and shoot us a message. We'd love to hear some of your feedback. And also, I would just say we're going to be re-airing over the next couple weeks as well.
Big things to come.
Big things to come. And the next time you see us, it's going to be a little bit different around here. So I'm just going to leave a little teaser. I'm geeking, man.
Yeah, this is going to be
I'm
a lot
geeked.
of fun.
I'm geeked right now. This is my wheelhouse. All right, guys. Well, I know what we're going to be doing, but for now, go build something awesome.